Right guys, so all I want to do today is cover something that I get asked a lot, and that is, Jamie, why am I getting lines in my spray pattern? So I'd always first check the gun filter. So inside the gun handle is a filter. Some people, you'd be surprised, don't even realise it's there. But if that is clogged, really clogged up, then it's not letting the material through properly. Therefore, you're going to get tails. So I'd say 100 mesh filter your gun. In Tritech and Q-Tech, that's going to be yellow, and in Graco, that's going to be blue. 100 mesh is pretty bang on for most paints. You sometimes have to change it around to suit, but I'd say if you stick to 100 mesh, that's probably the one I go for most of the time. Make sure you clean it every time you clean the sprayer out, cleaning your filters through. These are cheap as chips, and even though if you think that is clean, you've really cleaned it out, it's so fine, that mesh, you're better off having a couple of weeks of changing to a new one. As I said, they're only a quid or so each. The other thing I would be checking is the manifold filter. So the manifold filter is going to sit in here. So the manifold filter comes as standard 60 mesh. That's pretty much what I would use most of the time. You can change it to 100 mesh to suit, but I've always found that those two work fine together. So whatever comes standard in the machine would be a 60 mesh in the Q-Tech. And also just check that is clean and make sure that you've got no rips in it and it's doing the job. Because obviously if that again is full of rubbish, then we're not going to be letting the right amount of material through, therefore it's going to struggle to keep up. Another common mistake people make is the paint is too thick. This is something we had recently with other students. They went back to, they left the course, went to the site, mixed the paint into what they thought was the right consistency, and it just was way too thick. So don't be shy to get some water in the paint. Woodwork I generally don't thin because it's normally quite a good consistency depending on what brand you use. But with the emulsions, I always thin it down quite heavily. Not too heavy that it's going to be running down the walls, but just make sure you get that consistency right. I always generally would add a little bit of warm water to the paint and then just keep going until you get that consistency. Another thing as well, the pressure is not high enough or you've got the wrong tip in. This is something I see quite a lot. If you're using a high pressure tip, I'd say they don't really work under 2000 PSI. I'd say really start around that number. Low pressure tips you might get around 12 to 1500 to start, but the high pressure tips, make sure you've got that pressure up, because again, one of the guys rang me the other day and said that it's not working. He only had it on 1700 PSI and he was using a high pressure tip and it was never going to work properly. Told him to whack it at about 2.2 and then away he went. It's something you have to play around with over time and just get used to how the machine works, what sort of consistency of paint you need, and just remember you can add but you can't take away, so build it up gradually as you go. Do some test patches, find out what pressure that was the day you sprayed, and then write that down on a notepad, and then you'll start working out then how your machine works, what consistency of paint you need. Another thing you need to take into account is that when you're spraying, every paint will be different, so don't think that just because you sprayed Dulux, say, at 2000 PSI, that the next brand would be like a Leyland, and that's going to spray at 2500. And that might be the same consistency. Your mixing might be the same, but the solid content in the paint might be a lot higher, so therefore it's going to spray a lot different. So hope that helps guys, and thanks for tuning in.